Brilliant. Thank you. Anybody else to admit on Zoom there, sir?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Connie with the bookstore. And it is my pleasure to be introducing friend Maude White tonight. People coming in. Heather, we might need another chair or two.
Okay.
Thanks. Tonight's event is a hybrid event, so we're in person. We're also on Zoom. So welcome to all of you and welcome to our guests on Zoom. Hello. For those of you on Zoom, tech this afternoon or this evening is my 14-year-old son, Henry. So he's on the other side of your screen. There he is. And so bear with us as we chart new territory. And for folks on Zoom, if you want to chime in on chat at any point, Henry will be fielding your chat comments. So, and we are recording this tonight, just so everybody knows that we are making a recording. Upcoming events, we have poetry night happening this Thursday at 6:30. That's our monthly poetry night. And then other than our usual poetry night and fiction book clubs and things like that, we take a little bit of a break for the rest of this month and most of January when we sleep. So we will be back in the spring, winter, spring with events. So until then, bring us chocolate. What we ask. We get us Heather would agree. So I would like to introduce Maude. Maude White is an award-winning cut paper artist, author, teacher, mindfulness tarot reader, and resilience facilitator. She is the author of Brave Birds, which we have on the table, Inspiration on the Wing, as well as the creator of the Brave Bird journals and box note cards. She is also the illustrator of Leading with Love, Inspiration for Spiritual Activists. Her work has been featured by Orion Magazine, The Artist Magazine, Art House Press, and Urban Outfitters, among others, and exhibited in national and international galleries, as well as to her 100 or so thousand Instagram followers. You have a lot. And she is also, as of tonight, the creator of Resilience Alchemy. So we're launching Resilience Alchemy tonight. She is a talented maker in a number of regards. I am wearing her earrings. We have some of her earrings for sale. She also brought a selection of her holiday cards this evening that are for sale. So it is my pleasure to introduce my friend, neighbor, artist, and author, Maude White.
Thank you so much, Connie and Heather, and it is quite an honor to be here. When I first moved here, this was the first place that I came, and I was like, okay, this is home. You know, it's wherever you move, it's good to have a home, a bookstore home, and this is a really, really beautiful one. So thank you for having me here. I am very honored to be here. So, Resilience Alchemy is something I have been working on for about 5 years now. It was 2018 when I first started working on it. And the concept kind of plays with this idea of how resilience and alchemy are both kind of intertwined as concepts. And they both have really beautiful definitions, beautiful histories. But like in terms of alchemy, it's kind of a mysterious, magical history. But like if we take their two definitions, resilience and alchemy, resilience is the ability to bounce back, to recover from setbacks. Alchemy is a seemingly magical transformation, recombination, or creation. And when you put those two together and ask for, like, how do they come together? How does resilience and alchemy work together inside our bodies, inside our lives, where we go, how we live? And how resilience is a kind of alchemy that when we're always creating alchemy. When we breathe in and we transform, you know, air into energy and fuel our bodies, that's seemingly magically transforming one thing into another. When we change our minds, when we problem solve, when we fall in love with someone new, these are all forms of alchemy, you know, a seemingly magical transformation, recombination, or creation. So I wanted, when creating this deck, I wanted to take this, alchemy, this seemingly magical thing that was for a lot of history considered esoteric and kind of forbidden or inaccessible, and really remind everyone that we're all alchemists. We all perform alchemy, and that by giving these seemingly normal things the term like alchemy can like reinvigorate us and bring the magic back into when we heal, when we create change, when we make new connections. And so resilience specifically is something that I've always been interested in, because it's something that some people seem to automatically just show resilience from a young age, and it doesn't matter what background they come from. They just seem to have this ability to always take something and kind of find joy in their lives, versus others, for some it's difficult. So what I was interested in creating a deck that made resilience kind of accessible and at everyone's fingertips. And I hope in the deck I've done that. So with this deck, the original goal of it was to help people. So it's gone through many versions in the 5 years. Originally, I made it specifically for women to heal from trauma. And then I realized that everyone has trauma, and I don't want it to be specific to one segment of the population. So I expanded it. And then I realized that trauma is just one aspect of everyone's story, and that there's so much more to every person. We're not our traumas. So then I wanted the deck to be more of a celebration than a focus on something upsetting. So the deck is a system I created to kind of aid us in creative problem solving with a focus on healing and self-care. So creative problem solving is just like looking at things from a new perspective, like allowing yourself to be given a prompt or an idea and then expanding in new directions. And people apply it a lot to business and productivity, like how can we solve these kinds of problems. But I'm fascinated in creative problem solving when applied to self-care and love and helping each other. So that being said, I will dive into just the deck itself. It's a system about resilience and alchemy, and this idea that sometimes we just need a little prompt outside our normal sphere of thinking to help us look at a problem or an invitation from a new direction. And that every single card in this deck was my attempt to kind of create a holistic system to help us as we do this like creative alchemical resilience work. So the deck is split into 6 parts. There's a sisterhood, and these are the gray cards. And this is just, I think of these as the teachers and the mentors of the deck. So when this kind of card comes up, it's an invitation to imagine yourself as this card's apprentice. So if you can imagine, this one is the root keeper, and her little subtitle, which you can think of as her name tag. She tends to our roots. So when this card comes up, this is where the fun of resilience alchemy comes in and makes it more like excitingly accessible. Like, this isn't an esoteric deck. It's not about magic or about secrets you have to learn about the universe, or about yourself or anything. It's just, well, what comes up when you think of root keeper or tending to our roots? And it could, whatever comes to your mind is what the card is about. That's what I think is any card deck or any system should be about, is not someone telling you what a card means, but what comes up for you. So in the guidebook, I have suggestions, but there's always this invitation to, you're the expert in your life. So the first part is the sisterhood. Then there's 4 suits of remedies. And I think of the remedies as that when thinking about resilience and health and self-care, there are 4 areas of our lives that can radically impact that. The first is what we think, head remedies. What are we thinking? How are our thoughts and thought processes either leading us in helpful directions, or are we stuck in thought loops? Do we need to expand our thinking or really focus on reframing thoughts we're having? So that's one thing that really impacts our resilience and our ability to take care of ourselves is, what are we thinking? Are we paying attention to what we're thinking? Another is, what are we feeling? These are the heart remedies. So what are you feeling, and how is that impacting a present situation? Are you sensing positive things or negative things? And how can you bring this specific remedy into your life? Like, what can you change to inspire yourself to feel this way? This one is safety. And it's first heart remedies. So it's one of those base foundational remedies. Yeah, within the deck. So another thing about the deck, I'm going to jump a little bit, is that you can use it completely just pulling a card out and it means what it means. Or there's a deeper level where you can take it as deep as you want. There's a whole system in here. There's 12 stages of resilience. This belongs in the first stage of resilience, which is about foundations, beginnings, and self-sufficiency. So like you can go super deep and get very complicated and overthink it, as I do. Or you can just be like, okay, it's about safety. What makes me feel safe? This is what I need to look for in my life right now. Or this is what I need to focus on. Another area that impacts our health and how safe we feel is actions. What actions are we taking in our life? What are we doing physically, either physically with our bodies or like in our lives? And this one is rest. That's an important action to take, the inaction of rest. And then the third remedy, so you can think of the 4 suits of remedies as the 4 suits, like analogous to the 4 suits of a playing card deck. The fourth one is place remedies. Where we are impacts how we feel. When we feel at home in our safe space, we're going to feel very differently than if we're in the middle of a grocery store, or if we're in a classroom, or if we're among our peers and we're very nervous and want to impress them. So that's something to always consider when, that's a hint. But one thing to always consider is whatever you're facing, look to your location as well as what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and just make sure that you are in a place where you can physically do the work you're trying to do. And the last part of the deck, the last, suit in a way, are the gifts. And these are the gold ones. And these are 10 cards in the deck that are things that I feel will be present in every person's life. And I thought of the gifts, to me, are the aspect of the deck which is supposed to reassure you in one way, but also kind of remind you that there are things that aren't in your control, that are constants in the world. And on the good side, that means you can't hurt them, you can't damage them, they're always going to be there. From the bad, but the possible bad side might be you can't change things, you can't fix it. It might just be the way it is. And this one specifically is hexaity, which is a Latin word, and it just means thisness. It's this idea that every single thing in the universe is a unique, discrete thing, and it's not meant to look like anything else. And so I applied this in the deck to us. That's what I speak about for this card, is just hexaity. We are not all meant to be alike. We are discrete, individual, unique beings. So that is the deck. And to use it, as I said, you don't need a bunch of training. You don't even have to open the guidebook. You can if you want. It's fun. It's pretty. It's like a really cute shape. Like it's a nice, literally can go in your pocketbook. It's very soft. It has nice end papers, but you don't have to open it. But if you do, there are specific sections, including a self-care spread section at the back, which is just, so I guess I skipped a bit. For the, one of the main goals behind Resilience Alchemy is that whatever question you're asking in your life, or a series of questions, you can just write them down, shuffle the deck, and pull a card and answer to each question, and then use that as a brainstorming prompt to answer the question, like in a unique way, help you look at it in a different way. Also, sometimes it's good to think on it, just pull the card, and if nothing comes to mind, think about it over the next couple of days and something will occur to you and you'll make that connection. So every single card in the deck has its own little suggested spread with questions that relate to it, that then you can pick and choose which ones apply to your situation, cross out, or add your own questions. So we could go to the Hexaity card, which is the last card in the deck. And Hexaity is the property of being a unique and individual thing, or thisness. And the suggested questions you could ask with this card is, what might I give the world that no other person can? In what way is blank not a flaw, but a strength? Why might it be important this week that I embrace my own uniqueness? How can I support and nourish my own uniqueness? What is blank an essential part of me? Or why is blank an essential part of me or of my life? In what way is blank's life story meant to be different from my own? Why is every person unique? In what way is Hexaity a gift? And what is Hexaity? So whatever you like, anything, any card could come up and answer. And part of the fun is when you do a card spread, literally just for fun. There's one in here that's the meaning of life spread. Because on the last section is just a series of self-care spreads if you don't want to choose your own questions and you just want to go right to the back. There's one for get out of bed. There's one for work burnout. There's body acceptance spread. I struggle with body image issues, so that's one I really thought about. But there is a meaning of life one, which is just, why am I here? Why should I stay? Where have I come from? Where will I go when I leave? What did I bring with me into this life? What am I here to learn? Why do I matter? How can I find happiness in this life? And that's a fun one to do, if you're ready to be irreverent or to make your mind super big, because any card could come up and answer, and it could be silly or it could be super profound, and you never know. Which is the same with any of these, that you never know what's going to come up. And that's how I think we should look at any card reading system. That for a very long time there was this idea that only certain people could read cards, that it was inaccessible to the majority of us, and that it also was scary that it accessed a part of the world or the universe or existence that we weren't supposed to have access to. And I don't think that's the case. And I also don't think it should be scary using cards, that these cards especially are at the heart. They're just brainstorming tools. They're helpful. I will say that I do get into a whole zone when I do pull cards. I do take it seriously, but you don't have to. I don't, and this is just this personal thing, which I think is fun, that if I am doing a meaningful reading and I'm shuffling the deck and asking questions in my head and getting really centered about it, I don't pray per se, but I have this whole spiel that I do, dear sisters. I just say that because the deck is full of, there's a sisterhood in the deck. So it's just a way to make it, not religious in any way, but just somewhat prayerful, as in sisters, give me some advice. So I offer that if anyone is interested in reading in that way, as a connection to some power, that the sisterhood in the deck is something that I spend a lot of time with, and they feel like sisters to me at this point. And I feel like they make up a whole community, and every single one of them is just really wants to help you and support you in their own way. And I feel really special, that it's really special that I get to interact with them. And I hope anyone else who does interact with them thinks that way too, because I created them with complete love, and not to get weird, but I don't necessarily feel like I created them. I feel like we kind of had a conversation and they, gave me their wisdom. So that being said, I don't actually know what my time is at, or how.
You are at 7:23.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. So I wondered if, or I was hoping that we could do a holiday card spread together. Come up with some questions to ask for the holidays or the season, because I know this can be a super exciting season for some, but it can also be stressful. It could be both for you. It could be, kind of, lonely feeling, or it could be kind of overwhelming feeling. You could be navigating how to interact with people as like customer service with the holidays, or how to navigate the holidays alone, anything like that. So I brought my little whiteboard, and I can start out with a question that when I do these, I normally try to do like when creating card spreads, like, and I recommend that the questions you ask you within like the 3 to 6 questions. Going above 6 can get a little overwhelming. And if you do that, make sure you write down your questions so you remember what you asked. That's like major, because I forget. Like, what was the question? But one question I wanted to ask was, oh no, I'm going to forget it. In what new way can I find or feel community this season? Because I'm new to the area. I'm COVID new, that I've been here 2 years, but the first year, everything was shut. So I'm still like meeting people and getting to know people, and it's winter and I don't drive at night. So this is a question for me, is how can I find or feel community this season? So how can we, I'm going to do the royal we, and feel Did I write too small? Can you guys see this?
Yep, we can see that.
Okay. Does anyone have another question for the holiday season?
That was a good one. The one, because that kind of took in something that I was thinking, but also a question for me this particular year. As I've suddenly recognized, literally suddenly recognized that all the hoopla around the Christmas season could be fun.
Yeah.
So it's like how to find a way to embrace that without losing the sacredness or the groundedness. I see winter as being a very grounded thing, and all this other craziness as kind of being out of body, but
Yeah.
how to find a way to embrace that part of it too.
How can I add playfulness into my holiday
That's a good idea. Yeah.
season, or fun, playfulness or fun? How can I add some,
I like the word playfulness.
how can I add some playfulness into this
Yeah.
season? All righty. Oh, it's not 2. And you had one, Connie?
I've been thinking about how to I'm gonna call it burnout exactly, but how to more like marshal the energy I bring to the job over the course of a very, very busy month. So that it's because we tend to just give it our all every day. But by the time, Christmas itself comes, I've got nothing left in the tank. So how to be, I don't know, how to not get absolutely exhausted in this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways of phrasing is what can be a tool or ally. Does that work for you? What can be a tool or ally for?
Definitely to bring to that effort. Yep.
So. And I use tool or ally I always have a habit of writing ally, but ally, ally, because the deck has the remedies and the gifts, but also the sisterhood. So if like a sister comes up in answer to a question, she's an ally, versus if like a remedy comes up, like feelings or thoughts or a place or an action or whatever, that's a tool for you to use. That's like your toolbox. The remedies are your toolbox. So what can be a tool or ally for just for the holiday season, or for managing exhaustion, or do you want to use the term burnout?
I don't like the term
Yeah.
burnout, but I think just the overwhelmingness that this month can be for us. Because we tend to just be all on.
Anybody else? Yeah,
I'm kind of wondering, I come from a family where there are a lot of interesting traditions around the holidays, not just Christmas, certainly,
Mhm.
all of the holidays. Either some special memory that we keep going back to, or whether it's an actual physical activity. And I guess I'm kind of wondering sometimes, is it really okay to just keep turning out and reacting to those traditions and basing the seasons on those traditions, or is it time to let some of them go? I don't feel compelled to let them go, but should I be?
mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure that's a question, but I mean, it's just, I have a portion of the family that is very much tradition bound, which is
Mhm.
good when you're ready to pass things along that are physical,
Yeah,
that you know that they'll get a good well. But these are not necessarily those kinds of traditions. These are more activities or events. Things that we just bring out and do together because
Mhm.
we've always done them and we've enjoyed.
yeah,
But is it time really to let some of those go? And I don't feel like I am exhausted with any of them. I've got a really busy life, even though I live alone,
hmm
and my family is not close by. That's part of why I'm busy, because I'm constantly shuffling kind of back and forth. But I want to be able to continue the traditions that are meaningful to me, that have also been meaningful to those in my love circle.
hmm
Any of that makes sense?
yes, yeah. What about like, what does it mean to me to honor this season?
Okay.
Like, does that seem to cover it?
It does.
Okay. And this is one of those questions that, again, it's going to mean something different to each one of us. So this is, I love cards like this when it's asking, what, or the question could even be, what is this season? What is this holiday season? Like, but what does because any card could come up and answer, and that's what makes it exciting, is kind of like magical, or the seemingly magicalness. Any other questions? Anybody?
And any of our friends on Zoom,
Oh yeah, if anyone on Zoom has a
you
question,
can unmute yourself or chat.
but yes, David.
I guess my question is, how do you make this season special? I mean, I've been through a lot of Christmases and it's the same old, let's just get it over with.
Yeah. All right, I like, that's just very succinct. How can I make this season, or how can we make this season special? Does that work? Yeah. All right, we have 5 questions. Is anyone on Zoom, or we good?
Not as of yet.
Anybody else? Any more?
feel like I'm forming one, but can I add it later?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. We can, yeah, we can start our,
Yeah.
and then pull another card later. Yeah. So I like to write, get all the questions down and then read them back first. So we have all of our clear in our minds in case anyone wants to change any of the questions, and then we'll pull, shuffle and pull. So first question, how can we find or feel community this season? Second, how can I add some playfulness into this season? 3, what can be a tool or ally for this overwhelming time? 4, what does it mean to me to honor this season? 5, how can we make this season special? Does that work? Anybody? Will this work? Anybody? Can people see it, or is there too much of a glare? This is perfect. I have tiny hands, unfortunately, so I might not. So this is the ongoing issue with large decks. But I had to make an 83 card deck, so they're big and hard for me to shuffle. But I just want you all to know that if you come up and feel them, they're really soft and silky. Like, they're really soft. They're very nice to touch. So, and this is the part where if that I would think meaningful thoughts, and be like, okay, we're focusing on the season. We're taking a deep breath. We're lowering our shoulders, breathing out, relaxing, making sure our feet are planted, on the ground. We feel grounded. Close our eyes if we want. Think about the season, that it's cold outside and it may be dark, but we are making and bringing warmth and light inside. And there are some questions about the season. First one, how can we find or feel community this season? Student, sister. She learns the lesson with us.
What is it again?
Student.
Student.
So this is an ally. Or how can we find or feel community this season? So this is an invitation to be a student, but we can go through all these at the end. Like I usually put them all out, look at them, and then think about each one. How can I add some playfulness into this season? Gift, chance. So there's only 10 gifts in the deck out of 83 cards. So whenever a gift comes out, that's very exciting. And so remember, the gifts are the cards that are things that are beyond our control that may be at play. So it's kind of like to be aware of this thing in your life, chance, what this may mean. What can be a tool or ally for this overwhelming time? Celebrate, Connie. Which is an action remedy. So it's an invitation to do this action. And it belongs to the 11th stage of resilience, which is all about wisdom, clarity, and self-trust. So this is the action that belongs to that specific stage of resilience in the deck. What does it mean to me to honor this season? And this is action remedy move, so movement. That's one that Susanna's always getting too,
Yeah.
right before she moved too.
I either get moved or decide.
Yeah.
Just to get off the pot.
So this is going to be one that I think is going to require more discussion and investigation, because it's not a traditional, like, straightforward answer, I think. And then the last one, how can we make this season special? Ooh, alchemist. She is the last sister in the sisterhood, and her subtitle is She Creates the Medicine. So make this season special. All right. So our first question, how can we find or feel community this season? Oh, this is my question. Student. Yeah, see, so I see this card and I think, really going back to the basics of, like, what does community mean, like, to me, Like, how can I redefine and come at this question from a student's viewpoint? Like, what is a community? Does it have to be in person? Because I think that's what I'm craving, is like physically seeing people, hanging out with them. But can I expand a definition of community? Can I expand the definition to be the birds that I'm feeding at my bird feeder? Is that my community this year? Is it the glow in the dark stars I just put on my ceiling? Is it my cat? Or so I think that comes to mind when I think of students, and I think of finding or feeling community. Just going with the basics of what does it mean to be a student in being a community. Also taking a class, either holiday related class or just in the new year, you know, like signing up for something.
Just learning something. new in
Yeah, she
general.
learns and this is where, like, yeah, jump in, anyone who wants to, like, and I always say when using these that I never know what's going to come up, and I don't know if I'm going to have a lot to say about it, but I do know that the longer you think about it, the more things will come up. So if you have your own deck and you're asking questions, that's why it's good to write it down, and write down the answer card too, and then come back to it over the next couple of days and see what comes up.
Well, you think of study as having an object. I'm studying this, I'm studying that. And it puts you in relationship to have an object. You know, if you're studying phenomena, or if you're studying a body of knowledge, or if you're studying, you know, a craft, and it just sort of like, once you're in that kind of relationship, then that's the beginning of community, I guess.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that even like reading a book, that's an act of community, like you are interacting with something. Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. So how can we find or feel community this season? Think about being a student, learning lessons. And that this subtitle or the student is specifically in the deck as this way that everyone's always a student. You are never not a student, so it's okay to be a student. You're always learning. So that's why hers says she learns the lesson with us. We're never alone in like needing to learn something. So she's kind of like, okay, this could be just an invitation that, okay, everyone's struggling with community. You know, that's what it means to be human in this time, in the winter time, but also during, you know, COVID. Like that's what, you know, it's hard to find community, and everyone's a student relearning how to be in a community. So yeah, there's some thoughts on this one, but and I'll think about that one more because that was my question. That's my homework. How can I add some playfulness into this season? Chance. So whenever I see this card, I think taking a chance, like doing something you wouldn't normally do. Also just being, I think of chance, and I also think of synchronicity, which is just this idea that finding meaning in things, that being really conscious of paying attention and placing meaning on things, not being afraid to be like, oh, I saw an eagle. That means something. An eagle means, like, I think of that when I think of the chance card a lot. What comes up for you when this card, for this, how can I add some playfulness into the season, and chance comes up?
Well, as we know, some of us know, I'm not a very spontaneous person. So, maybe it's asking me to just act on things that may present themselves without having to justify them or go through all the processes that keep me from doing them.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah, I had a friend years ago who was like, who told me there's always there's always a door opening. It's just A, are you seeing it? And B, do you want to go through it? Like, because you might not be seeing the door at all, but even if you do see the door, it's your choice whether you go through it. But the first step is seeing the door or the window. So.
Well, also it occurs to me that the same thought, event, book, whatever, could either be considered playful or not. You know, so maybe that's the
Yeah.
chance element. It's just an interpretation that's put on something.
Mhm. Yeah, I think when writing this is one of those cards that was hard to write because what does chance mean? Like, oh, yeah,
I'm thinking about serendipity. I mean, chance is very often
yeah.
serendipitous. It's like shopping at TJ Maxx. You don't go with any specific. You follow it with what you thought. I mean, everybody,
Yes.
obviously, I'm not alone.
That makes sense.
Different than going to Hannaford and, you know.
Yes, you know exactly what, or you should know, yeah.
And with something in mind.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be like, well,
That's very
That's
true.
a broad category of something that you want, not explicit. And serendipity, I think, is very much
Mhm.
where my mind went
Yeah.
when you said chance. Things come
Yeah.
up and do you grab them or do you just walk past?
Yeah, and I think this is where, this is what's fascinating. I think that one of the fascinating things about this answer is that you wouldn't necessarily think that playfulness and chance would go together. Just because chancy, doubtful, kind of, ooh, you don't know. Like it could be anything. So a lot of time, like we think of chance as, like, oh, something, like that happened by chance, good or bad luck. There's this element of risk involved, but how do you like combine these two thoughts, playfulness and chance? And that's an interesting question, is like, how do you like, yeah, there's something exciting about chance and taking a chance, but remembering to be playful about it and not take it too seriously. That might be a part of it too.
Looking
That-
at it as an opportunity as opposed to a risk.
Yeah. 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 Or an adventure. Yeah. Take an adventure. So any more thoughts or? So what can be a tool or ally for this overwhelming time? Celebrate. Like this card comes up and I think, whenever this card comes up for me, I always take it as an invitation to just go back and remember, try and think, is there something I forgot to celebrate? Am I behind on my celebrations? Like, has something really awesome happened that I need to celebrate? But also just remembering, it's kind of like a little bit of like sweetness to add into things. Just that, like this card comes up for me with like indulgence or like taking care of yourself. It's an action remedy. So it is literally when the remedies come up, I take them as like, you can read it as the answer to your question or what you need to do to remedy that thing. So this could be something that could be a focus to help with the question, or it could be just the answer to the question. So it could, like, especially the action remedies sometimes require or ask, invite you to do some work, like to set up, like, weekly celebrations, weekly, like making commitments to do specific things to counteract or to celebrate, hey, I made it through. Like, what do you, and also with this card, this is a good invitation to like, what does one do to celebrate? What do you do to celebrate? What does a celebration mean to you? What does it entail? And I love making lists or like brainstorming. Like this is a classic example of the rabbit hole question for me, which is, oh, if you don't know what something means, then you put that down and you shuffle and ask, what does it mean to me to celebrate? Or like, what can help me celebrate this year? And then pull cards. Because like when I break it down, like for me, the things I do to celebrate aren't the same things that someone else might do. So that's another way to think about this, or an invitation for this card is, well, what does it mean to celebrate for me? That it might not be the same thing, because if one is overwhelmed in work and like constantly surrounded by stimulation, celebration doesn't mean having a party. It means,
Celebrate rest.
yeah, like a sauna or like,
Or corsage. I just have this image of you with this lovely flower.
See the
Yes.
chocolate? I mentioned the chocolate in my early remarks. And we went to see Cohegan Friday night, and usually in general, I don't do a lot on Friday nights. Friday nights are the exhausted time, you know. But COIG was gonna be at Hubbard Hall on Friday night, and so we got tickets, and it was a celebration. It was wonderful music. And I definitely left more invigorated than when I went in, you know,
Yeah.
it was just like it lifted me.
Mhm.
So. Gotta find your way to celebrate.
Yeah.
in the season.
Yeah, and balancing all of the difficult things with
Mhm,
the the how to navigate that.
mhm.
Yeah, what's the one corsage that we always did for me?
Oh, which one?
Gardenia, was it Gardenia? Yeah, yeah, I highly recommend Gardenia corsages because they smell all day. And they're like, yeah, like every time you move, Gardenia. Wafting. Does anyone else have thoughts on this? What can be a tool or ally for this overwhelming time and celebration comes up?
I was just thinking one thing you could think was looking forward to January, because January is totally different than December. And it's cold and it's a time most people wanna stay in a little bit, I guess. And you could think of it as a restful month. I mean, I know you have to work and all that stuff, but there are some times that you could get in there to rest and meditate, whatever you want to do. And it's something to look forward to, you know,
Mhm.
1 month
Yeah.
past another month, and there's good things on the way.
Yeah, I like that. And also, yeah, that planning something
Right.
like that's celebratory to me, whether or not I do it, it's just planning the thing is a lot of the excitement. It's like, yeah, to think past the season and be like, okay, what can I do in January that I can look forward to
Right. Right.
to make
Celebrate
it through
the
this?
culmination of.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
spirit. Mhm.
Hard though, isn't it? Because this is such a season of celebrations and opportunities,
Mhm.
and there's so many things to do and to enjoy. But it's all so much work,
Yeah,
and then you also have to work.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, my question, but I felt like it was sort of covered, was I've got work, and then I have the things that I love to do, which also requires some work to make them happen.
Mhm.
But they're important to me, things that only happen in this seasons, you know, traditions and
Yeah.
the things that, you know, we do as a family. But it's all so much work.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, it's like, sort of like what you were saying, what can I let go? What's important to me to hang on to? I like the idea of looking, and I wonder if we could pull another card off of this one. I liked what you said about like,
Oh, yeah,
how do you
what
answer a-
does-
what does celebrate mean to you? You know,
What can celebrate mean, or what unexpected way can we, in what unexpected direction can we celebrate? Should I shuffle again or just pull straight up? Well, so we're all on the same energy still. Ooh, oh yeah, wild woman. So she's, you know, she's an ally. She's in the deck, and hers is she leads us into the forest. So that's the allyship she's offering us, the instruction. What she's teaching us is this whole kind of she's big on the whole, don't worry about what they think or say, just be wild. Like let yourself go on an adventure. We're all like, if you think of like a wildflower, like we're trained to think of wild as a bad thing, but like a wildflower is not a bad thing. It's natural, it's uncultivated. So think of her as like, what is the uncultivated way to celebrate? That's not prescribed by like society or by what everyone else is saying is the thing. And then I like to, when doing these, is just put them together or celebrate, you know, that how they interact with each other. So in what unusual way or unexpected way can we celebrate this season? Is this? And she's another one that I feel is like, she requires thought and like interaction with, you know, like kind of like sit down with her and be like, okay, what are you talking about? What does it mean to be wild for me? Like what, and how is that a good thing? What can it give us? So, yeah. Keep that. And then we have the one that I wasn't, that this will require some thought. What does it mean to me to honor this season? And another action came up, move. So this card was going to be dance. So take that as like, that's originally. So like, I think of this card in my mind immediately goes to dance, but it could be anything. It could be move your location. Move mentally, like move your thoughts in a new direction. It could be physically, like literally move house. But what does it mean to me to honor this season? Movement. Does anyone have thoughts on this one? This is the one where I was kind of stumped. Yeah.
Maybe like your thoughts in a way to rearrange it to what it's your life.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Yeah.
We're celebrating. Very different here.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. And that made me think about like, ooh, I love rearranging a house.
Right.
And I love rearranging for a specific season. Yeah. Yeah, movement. And also just like the airingness, like getting new air in some, getting air. Not being. And I feel like this is a good answer because not being stuck with the original idea of what it should be. Or what it has been in the past. And I think movement happens natural. A lot of movement happens naturally. So for you, what sort of movement happens naturally? Like breathing.
Music is one of the things that I turn to often. It's a fill me up kind of thing. Reading is another, certainly cup of tea in hand. Friendship. Enjoying things with friends or family. My family is not close by. But I have a number of friends in the village and outside that I am in contact with. So the first literal thought to me in moving is my daughter is in Rhode Island, my son is in Houston, and I'm constantly moving somewhere. Of that. Yes. No, I'm not looking to move anywhere. I want to stay right here. I like Cambridge. I love this community. I love this bookstore. I love people here. The activities here. It's it's a fill me up kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I feel like the good and like it's not a physical thing, but move, to be moved by something. That's another way to work with. We'll think about the card is like, what moves you? Like, what does it feel? And also, what does it feel like to be moved by something? Like, what are the feelings you're seeking to have this season? And like, how does it feel to be moved? And how can you figure out what are the activities, and what are the things that really give you that feeling? And that's another way to look at the move part of it. Okay.
So I was just thinking, for me, the word move, it's a scary word because that requires, it always requires change for me. And that brings up a lot of fears, and you need a lot of strength and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really hard card to get, I think, to think about. And I just was wondering what other people do when they have that sort of fear of changing something, going to another stage, and not knowing what's there, how to deal with that is a big issue to me anyway.
Yeah. Well, we could do, I don't know what our time is that probably.
You're at 8 o'clock, just so you know.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I think there's time that we could do flip it so we can do it from the top. How can I feel safe in movement?
Yeah. That's
Or what can help me feel safe
just
safe with movement? And it's a head remedy, sustain. So this is, I had to refresh myself, it's a 10th. And so the 10th stage of resilience is all about facing the unknown, holding space for uncertainty, and taking a leap of faith. So this is the head remedy that's And so the head is all of head remedies, but the ones I struggle with the most, because I have OCD and it's so hard for me to like shift my thinking. So I'm always really, a lot of the time angry. And my mom knows this. I'm often angry when a card comes up. I'm like, I hate you. I don't want to look at you. But this is a good one, actually. And so the sustain one is all about like, what thought patterns are we sustaining? And how can we think in ways that sustain us? So there's the two parts of that question is like, what thoughts are sustaining us? And then also, how can we bring in thoughts that sustain us? Does that make sense? Like these two, like that they're two parts of the same question, super entwined, and it's just and I feel like that's appropriate because 10th stage is that facing the unknown, holding space for uncertainty, taking a leap of faith. So what sustains you? And how can you find sustenance in times of uncertainty and movement? And also just remembering that what we think, of course, impacts everything. So just whenever I think of the sustain card, I also think of like affirmations, like or mantras. You know, like what are we saying to ourselves? Like what do we say? And are we saying positive things? Are we starting off from a positive place? Trusting ourselves, trusting whatever movement we're making or about to make, and that, you know, giving our bodies the assurance that they know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. We've been through so much. We can trust where we're moving to. And just reminding ourselves whenever our heads might go away from this aspect, that what we're focusing on now are the thoughts that sustain us. And that that's going to be what helps us move forward. So the question was, how can we feel safe when we're in movement or when we're facing like uncertainty in movement? It was just being really careful about what we're telling ourselves and what thoughts are in our head when we're in movement or facing movement. And also, since it can be triggering, you know, the move aspect, I always have to bring myself back to the original name of this card was dance. So if nothing else, this is just an invitation to stand up and dance. That it doesn't have to be super, you know, aggressive or like inspire great change. That movement can literally just be sitting up, standing up, or sitting down, or going outside, going on a walk. Yes.
This time when move came up, things always come up differently every time I see the same card, but this time it was like in my head, it was saying, move over. So like shift over, something else has to share the space, you know, like when you move over on a bench, same bench.
Yeah.
It's just you've shifted a little bit and now there's something else there too.
Yeah. Or seeing from a new perspective, like stepping to the side and you're like, oh, I missed that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. How do we feel about this? What does it mean to me to honor this season? I feel like we gave good thought to move. Right. And the last one, how can we make this season special? An alchemist, she creates the medicine, came up. So she's the last sister in the sisterhood. She kind of brings it all together. And also the deck is called Resilience Alchemy. So of course she'll have a lot to say. And alchemy. The definition was that a recombination, transformation, or creation. So what can we create specifically this season to make it special? Like what, is there a new tradition or a new type of gifting or celebrating or anything like that? Like how does this alchemist want to kind of teach or guide or be an ally with us? So how can we make this season special? Think about an alchemist, think of yourself as an alchemist. Also, sometimes the sisters might be an invitation to look in your life and think, oh, is there someone in my life who kind of embodies this card? And then going either in person or just thinking, how would that person respond to this dilemma? Or literally going to them and saying, hey, what do you think about this?
I used to think about the season and think that darkness was kind of the enemy. Because I really don't like it getting dark early. And you know, a lot of people share that. And I've worked hard to change my thinking on that and to think about the darkness as an invitation to stay home after dark and go inward and maybe do other pursuits, but to look at it as more of a healing time. So if
Mhm.
that's alchemy exactly, but just I guess in my own mind trying to take this force, this elemental force of darkness,
Yeah.
and literally like do that, like
Mhm.
twist it around a little bit and not have it be all these things I was always told, like, oh, it's depressing and you're gonna get SAD and you're gonna, well, maybe not, maybe it's
Yeah.
a totally different force,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that is, I mean, that's why I think the
Right.
definition of alchemy is that like when we reimagine something or rethink it or change a popular idea about something, or like think something of ourselves, that's alchemy. And I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Did this spark anything for you, David, as the question asker?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so, yes. It's interesting that it's such a severe, like you said, it's like you gotta throw everything out and start all over again, it sounds like.
No, I think alchemy can be just that recombination aspect, or like it doesn't mean that you need to, like change, like, or like create it or transform it. You can combine things together in a new way, or just think of putting two things together that you might not have put together before. But
Could it also be thinking about those aspects of the season that you enjoyed the most, being the ones you focus on? And the ones that perhaps make it seem like, let's get it over with, which I think is what David expressed, are the ones that you just sort of, move
Mhm.
out of the way and then look elsewhere.
Mhm. Well, and it just occurred to me that like the season itself, whether or not people celebrate Christmas or not, it's kind of a magical, like we think of it as a magical time where this happens. Like alchemy like there's magical things going on, like baby in a manger.
Stars appearing.
Yeah, and like
Angels sing.
yeah, and
And we hear them.
well, and also December 21st, when the longest day, and then things start getting light, like you're saying, light and darkness, that like things are transforming, and that's to focus on that can make it kind of like not scary but exciting. Like that's how I was taking it. Like the alchemist is kind of this invitation to like be awed by everything, find the magic, and that you don't have to be the alchemist. It's just like this invitation to like, oh, look around you for where the alchemy is happening.
I think one of the things that helps me is it's my grandchildren and looking at life through their eyes, because three of them are, under the age of 9. And, this whole season is magical to them, and just seeing that reflected in their eyes is something that, just makes it more fun and interesting, and that's something to look forward to, than perhaps it might be.
Yeah, and also the alchemy of like, of course, a new generation is going to change things too, and that's kind of cool and exciting. That they're gonna show us things that we don't see.
Yeah, things we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's really what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember as a child there was my favorite place was behind the Christmas, like there was, if you had your Christmas tree in a corner with like that behind it, like the wall behind it, and then my favorite thing was to crawl underneath the tree and sit against that wall with the, and it had to be multicolored lights. It couldn't be the white lights on the tree. It had to be the multi. It was just like sitting with my back against the wall looking back, and that's like super magical. And that's a feeling that like, of course, I haven't had in years. Yeah. But yeah, or bringing, like for the darkness, or like one aspect of alchemy that I would take this as a way that I've been struggling with the darkness, like feeling like night fears, like, and since there's so much more darkness right now, it's like I have a lot of night anxiety because it's dark a lot. I bought glow in the dark stars, and oh my God, they are making me so happy. I've been offering them, texting people, be like, do you want some glow in the dark stars? Like, oh my God, they're amazing. But like, that's like, okay, you're creating something that was never supposed to be in your bedroom. You were not supposed to have stars in your bedroom, but like, that's pretty magical. To be able to look up at your ceiling and see the stars, that's alchemy, you know, in this very broad definition I'm giving. So like, that's making my season special, is putting stars up on my ceiling that would never be there in the normal course of the world. Any more thoughts on?
This will seem like totally out of left field, which it probably is, but it makes me think about how we're talking about alchemy, things that we do all the time, but that when we're trying to cool ourselves down, when we're too warm and we cool ourselves down, we transform potassium in our body into sodium, and that removes an element of heat. It takes energy to do that, and so we become cooler, and that's what sweating is. So
I did not know that. Cool. Does everyone else know that? And I didn't know that. Okay.
so this is like our bodies are technically, they literally are changing one element into another, just like you said, oxygen into carbon dioxide. We do that too. So then it made me think about how cold I've been, and how like if it was like, how can we make this season special? For me, it would be like to sweat, to be hot enough to sweat.
Yeah. Sauna. Who's got a sauna?
Yeah, all right, that's a good one.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. I wasn't sure where you were going at first, but yeah, you did bring it around. Yeah.
That's why I like this, is because we can take it in any direction.
Exactly. And this one, and for me, the two that I felt need the most thinking over time would be this one, and then the move one. What does it mean to me to honor the season? The move, like those were the two that, for me, that weren't the most straightforward answers. That I feel like the others were more like, okay, we give you some ideas to jump off of, but that these are ones that over the next couple days or weeks, like if you think about this question again, or, you know, what does it mean to me to honor this season? And just,
I'm just wondering, a little aside, what did you ask the cards? Is some way to prompt you to put the stars on your ceiling?
I did. I did a spread for the card spread for like being scared of the dark, and I had a series of questions, and one of them gave me that idea. I don't remember which question it was, but it's on my Instagram. But yeah, and it was just, and it gave me the idea, and it was a good idea. I'm glad I did it. Like I could
Darkness. Just thinking, about yours, is that the darkness is an invitation to sleep. I mean,
we're supposed to be sleeping.
We're being told to sleep. So that's a movement in another direction that can possibly be helpful.
Candles.
Oh yeah. 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 That's what I asked for my sister for her birthday. I was like, candles. I like some nice candles. So.
Connie, I don't know if you're there yet, but the age I've gotten to, like when people ask me like what would be really special to do in a day, one of my first thoughts is always nap.
I'm very pro nap.
Well, I know we've probably we're over our time, but so I'm sorry that took. I obviously anyone can ask questions. Like I want to, of course, invite people to ask questions, but also I know that we're after 8, so no one needs to ask questions. But also, I hope that everyone feels like these questions were answered. And if anyone wants to take a photo of their question or write it down, we can do that after. But yeah, does anyone have any questions? Or thoughts or ideas? Anyone here or anyone on Zoom?
Do you have an open box?
So everyone can see what comes in it?
I like the box.
Oh yeah, so here it's magnetic closure.
Makes
Makes a nice satisfying sound. It's got lovely end papers. These were all designed by Jenna McBride from Running Press, who I did the artwork and she somehow made it look pretty, put it all together. And so this is the box it comes in. It has this lovely little cute book that sits on top. It's very pretty. And again, and it has beautiful end papers too. When my mom saw this, she's like, my favorite part is the end papers. And then this little guy, and this is like a velvety material. It's very cool. This guy sits in there. And what I love about this is that, I mean, the box, the cards come in, you can take it out and just put it in your purse or bag and just carry it around with you. And it's pretty. So yeah, that's everything that's in it. And yeah. Any other, was that answer your question? I can't actually remember. So yeah. I also brought some artwork if anyone wanted to see some of the originals or other artworks.
I was gonna ask how big the original.
Yeah, they're not that big. So like this is the RA that's on the back.
Is that cut paper?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can, I mean, yeah, anyone can come up after. This is the gifts. Like that's what this guy is. And then this is just motif that's recurring in the guidebook, because the theme of this one was wild roses. And then that's the mountain from this little guy has the mountain on it.
What triggered you developing this?
At the time, well, this was, I think this was 2018, and I was very sad, and I was sad and struggling like anxiety and depression, and I had this idea, like this thought, like I wish I could create something that was so perfectly designed and so holistically designed that every single part, when put together, could like heal you, like that it would prompt magical mind associations. And I know that's not, you know, what I realized is like that's not how the world works. You can't create something like that because everyone's different.
That you can trigger it.
Well, and but it was that I wanted to come up with a series of things that wouldn't harm anybody and would be helpful. Like the sisterhood, there's 25 sisters, and I have this, when I was creating them, they're 1 through 25 in an order that, like, if you read them in order, they would kind of like teach you about a community and about what you face. Like the first one is what I felt was like the most important thing, love. And then the caretaker, then the visionary, then the translator. And it was like, how does one interact and take care of oneself? And it goes all the way up to the alchemist, which is when we bring it all together. And I wanted each sister to cover one aspect of what I thought would make it a healthy life. Like even like there's the shadow holder in the deck, and she is the one who handles like the things that we don't want to think or talk about, like the stuff we put in like the secret box. So yeah, so originally it was like this, I wanted to do something impossible, which was to make something that could like heal people or heal me, because I was really sad and I just wanted to have something that like pull a card and it would make you feel better. But that's up to us. And that's what I think the whole point of it is that it's really your brain making the associations and doing the work.
But it's also really interesting that it can be a community activity.
Yeah, and that's
more than-
yeah, that's one of my favorite parts about it, is like, because I'm never gonna have like the whole picture, or like when I talk about them online, like it's always like I'm seeing from one very narrow view. And like what's cool is when other people say, oh, that means something else to me. It's like really cool. I'm like, oh wow, that never occurred to me. Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts?
Just some nice comments from Zoom folks here.
Okay.
This has been lovely, thank you. That was from Louisa. This has been fascinating and so insightful from Anna Maria. Kay says, very nice presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it and was impressed by the depth of the questions and the thoughtful responses. Annie completely agreed, feeling ready to take on the holidays after this.
Perfect, good. Thank you so much. Ready? Anybody else? All right, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to Connie and Heather and Bat and Co Books, which if you weren't able to make it, I highly recommend coming in for all of your holiday needs. It's like,
It's slowly over.
yes. Yes. and Like, but do it like and bring like chocolate with you to offer as you come in.
Thank you.
So,
Maud.
thank you very much. Oh, yeah.